How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 6. Things are getting a little interesting here, because I don't know what side is evil and what side is not evil, what side could be seen as good. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, and it really can be related to what was seen in Chapter 1, and maybe some of the other chapters here and there, whenever specific events were going on, but it seems like we are facing off against the absolute foe or foes of the village, or those that don't like what we're doing, what Keiichi and Rena are up to, or specifically Rena in this case, what Keiichi was doing in Chapter 1. I don't know who these guys are, but I feel like the answer is right on the tip of our tongues at this point. Maybe. Let us read on and see what happens now that we know that Rena is absolutely being targeted. How do we know? Or why is she being targeted? And how do they know that that she has the scrapbooks? How could we tell that it's the scrapbooks? Is there something else at play?
俺はどこかでレナの話を疑ってたよ。本当にすまない。
いいよ、ケイチ君。そのおかげで待ち伏せをやり過ごせたんだしね。
あいつらは何者なんだ。そのお社様信仰を復活させようとする信者の集団の手先。
彼らにはそういう自覚はないと思う。彼らを操っている黒幕はそうなんだと思うけどね。多分ダム戦争の当時から陰で様々な工作をしてきた連中なんだと思う。
ダム戦争の最中に園崎家が裏でいろいろと暗躍したって話は俺も少しは聞いたことがあるな。
有名な話だよね。これは大石さんに聞いたんだけど、ダム戦争の最中に誘拐事件があったんだって。これも秘密の事件なんだけど、なんでも建設大臣の孫を誘拐してダム建設中止の約束を裏取引したんだって。
Yeah, so that is something that we should, recall, that this event did happen, and it is kind of the true beginning events of things to truly come and change here. This whole shift of who's in the wrong and who's in the right with this nice small village. And I believe that the white van was seen in Chapter 4 as well, that the goons that actually did kidnap and, keep in some sort of custody, that was in Chapter 4, is now here. It's the same type of people, not exactly the same, but we know that there's a connection to the Sonozaki family in that case, right? If that is actually the case?
大臣の孫を誘拐？おいおい、そんなの聞いたことないぞ。
Damn, they were really able to keep it on the down low then.
大臣が犯人との取引に応じる姿勢を見せたため、事件を公にしないことになったんだって。大石さんは当時その事件に関わったから知ってるんだって。
それで
大石さんが言うには、孫の誘拐や大臣の脅迫などの手口は恐ろしいほどに高度だったんだって。その事件は園崎家が命令を下したことだけは分かっているけど、結局未解決なんだって。当時園崎家の当主である園崎お涼は武装闘争の方針を打ち出していて、配下である暴力団組織の中に特攻隊を組織したそうなの。ダム計画の撤回がどうしても望めないときは建設省に突入して武力制圧しようなんて、そんな物騒な計画を本気で練っていたらしいの。
Everybody knows that the Sonozaki family had tried to stop the dam project, even if it meant breaking the law. So I wasn't so surprised to hear that she had a dangerous plan like that. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Mion who came up with the idea. The plan sounded just like her.
結局、その計画は計画のままで終わったんだけど、それを実行するための特攻隊の訓練というのは行われていて、相当高度なものだったらしいよ。
Ueshi had uncovered the information right after the dam conflict ended. At the time, Oreo even said that if the village was going to be submerged, all members of the Onigafuchi Guardians would choose to stay in their houses and drown. So because Oryo was behind those things, I couldn't just laugh off the idea of an armed assault on the Ministry of Construction. According to the information Ushi seized, she planned a suicide mission as a last resort when the damn conflict started to heat up, in case their resistance wasn't successful. She had actually obtained weapons and put people through training for the sake of that plan. The Special Attack Corps were flown to America, having received a huge amount of money from Oryo for the operation. I do not remember that. In the southern desert of the United States, some retired military soldiers gave them highly professional training. While the plan was never carried out, the Special Attack Corps became a death squad under the direct control of Oryo after they came back from America. They were involved in many unsolved terrorist incidents, and they succeeded in kidnapping the grandson of the minister as well. Well, that explains them.
嘘みたいな話だな。
みーちゃんがよくヘリの操縦から無線機まで何でもできるみたいなことを言うでしょ。あれは本当。みーちゃんも当時その訓練に参加してるらしいよ。
じゃああいつ本当に。
まあみーちゃんの話はともかく。
I think some of it is exaggerated, but, you know, who's to say?
大臣の孫すらも誘拐できるだけの暗殺部隊が存在するってことだけは疑っちゃダメ。
I didn't take a close look at the 4 men in the white van today, but thinking about it, they did look professional in a way. They were pretending to just be taking a break, but I could tell they were tense the whole time.
それであいつらはレナの命を狙っているのか？
多分狙ってはいないと思う。殺すだけだったら私もう殺されてるよ。
じゃあ狙いはまさかあれか、高野さんのスクラップ帳。
圭一君が見た通り連中は相当警戒心が強いみたいで、隙を見つけない限りは強引な手段に訴えてこないみたいなの。だって強引な連中なら私の自宅の寝込みを襲えばいいんだから。
それをしないってことは結構慎重だってことになるな。
多分私がスクラップ帳を持っているという確信がないからだと思うの。彼らはミオさんを殺し、持っていたスクラップ帳を全て処分しようとした。ところが一番重要な数冊が抜けていた。それで自分が狙われているのを察して誰かに預けたんじゃないかと考えてるんだと思うの。その有力候補が私なんだと思う。でも確証がないから強引な手段に訴えられないんだろうね。
レナ、お前かなりヤバい橋を渡ってるんじゃないのか？
You're now figuring this out, Keiichi?
そうだね。ちょっと怖いかな。
Yeah, I'd be fucking scared too.
でも
Man, these
そう簡単
kids,
には
man,
されないよ。
they are just on it. They absolutely are.
私は大石さんと連携している。有事の際に備えて常に連絡を取り合っているしね。
そうだ、大石さんはどう言ってるんだよ。
大石さんも園崎家が何らかの暗躍をしていないか監視してくれてるよ。
The thing is, the Sonozaki family is not actually doing anything. Everything is so indirect with the Sonozakis that if they are issuing a order, you know, huge quotes on order, then it's not a direct one. So they can't be seen as being at fault or actually doing an actual action. It's always going to be another party.
高野さんのスクラップ帳の話はしたのか？
話してない。
警察には話した方がいいだろう。それに警察ならきっと力になってくれるぞ。
圭一君、私は君にだって信じてもらえるか自信がなくて話せないでいるんだよ。大石さんに話したって絶対に信じてもらえるわけがない。
なあレナ、もう煙に巻くのはなしだ。話してくれ。一体何なんだ？何がスクラップ帳に書いてあるんだ？高野さんが消されるほどの何が書いてあるんだ？
簡単に言うと、このスクラップ帳に書いてあることが事実なら彼らの神が貶められることになるの。
神を貶める？
そう、お社様の神聖性が失われてしまう。だからお社様信仰を復活させようとする彼らは絶対に伏せたいと思っているの。
すまんレナ、もう少し分かりやすく言ってくれ。つまりどういうことなんだ？
つまりお社様は神様じゃないってことなの。
神様じゃない？
I had no idea what she read that made her so certain. but whatever it was, it'd be sacrilegious for people who believe so strongly in Oyashiro-sama.
お社様の教えっていくつもあるけど、その原点はたったの一つしかない。それは中から出るな、外から入るなというもの。この大原則を守るために、その他の教義を発展させたと言ってもいいくらい。隣人を愛せとか、家内安全とか、縁結びの神様なんてのは、本当に後から取ってつけたものでしかないの。
In other words, Oyashiro-sama existed solely to stop the villagers from going outside the village, Oyashiro-sama doesn't bless the villagers or protect them from disasters. The people believe that Oyashiro-sama does all that for them, but the truth is that the people abused his name for that purpose, generation after generation, and nothing more than that. Why did Oyashiro-sama descend in the first place? Because demons came out of Onigafuchi Swamp and attacked people.
実はこの時点で解釈が違ってたの。鬼が湧き出して襲ったんじゃない。湧き出したものにやられると人々を襲う鬼になるの。
湧き出したもの？どういう意味だよ、レナ。
Whatever came out of the swamp possessed people, crawled into their blood, controlled them, and turned them into demons. People had no resistance against whatever it was that came out of the swamp. They became demons, attacked the other villagers, and turned them into demons as well. That's right. It was a weird infectious disease that broke out from the swamp. It made the infected people go out of control. The villagers saw this disaster and explained it like so. Evil demons came out from the bottom of the swamp, possessed people, and turned them into demons as well. This is the truth of the story of the demons that came out of Onigafuchi Swamp.
確かに、それだと伝説をうまく説明できるな。じゃあ、お社様ってのは、ひょっとして異国から来た医者？
そうだね。正確には正しくないけど、そう、医者と呼べる存在。
You know, when you word it like that, it begins to make me wonder about a few things, but I don't know. This is a very interesting theory, and I talked about it whenever we learned about this when Rena was reading the scrapbooks. Obviously, it helps kind of cover a little bit more of the, okay, this makes sense in actuality, and kind of going away from magical bullshit with gods and curses. Honestly, it does help the realistic side, but at the same time, we're talking about generations upon generations of a parasite that is for sure growing, adapting, and sticking with these people. And it's so specific with the hallucinations and the homesickness and what have you, that it kind of makes it hard to follow or really believe. But I don't know. I mean, if there's more evidence behind it, then, you know, power to it. I mean, you know, fuck the magical shit. It helps to actually follow something that makes sense and has some groundedness to it.
それが降臨して伝染病を治療したの。でも、それは治療ではなく、対処療法でしかなかった。
All his treatment could do was reduce the symptoms of the infection. Villagers could have their symptoms suppressed, but there was no way to kill the parasites that infested them. After a while, the village was divided into two groups. One group was made of the people who were already infected, and the other consisted of the people who weren't. Without a cure for the disease, the uninfected looked down on the people who could only suppress their violent symptoms. They even talked about drowning them in the swamp. But they knew killing the infected people wouldn't solve the problem. The parasites came out of their water sources, including Onigafuchi Swamp. They couldn't fill them all in, and if they did that, they would lose their access to drinking water. They could have chosen to leave the village, but that was hard for them, for that was the location of their ancestors' graves. I'm sorry, but like, what's more important here, the future or the past? Under the power of Oyashiro-sama, infected people could live without showing symptoms. So both those who were infected and those who weren't decided to live together equally to coexist with the parasite. Oyashiro-sama was impressed by the villagers' decision. He decided to stay there and continue to treat them.
それが、お社様がこの地にとどまり、 人と鬼の生活を見守ったの真相か。
そしてお社様は感染者である村人たちに症状を出さないために掟を作った。その最大にして唯一のものが、村から出てはいけない、外から人を入れてはいけないだったの。
外から人を入れてはいけないってのはわかるぜ。感染者を増やさないためだろう。でも出てはいけないってのはどういう意味なんだ？
寄生虫たちは気候や風土の関係でこのHinamizawaの地でしか生きられないらしいの。だから宿主である感染者がこの地を離れようとすると強い症状を出してそれを妨害するの。その妨害こそがいわゆるお社様のたたりの正体。
The strongest symptoms of the infectious disease were violence and delirium. The infected people acted just like demons, and the impact of seeing them in the throes of the disease was strong enough to make others describe them as such. They couldn't even let people leave who had just come to the village. If they had left after being infected, they might go crazy in a faraway land, turn into a vicious demon, and cause a disaster. Infected people were never allowed to leave. When an infected person left the village, they brought him back by any means necessary. That was what it really meant to be demoned away?
ちょっと待てよレナ。だとしたら俺やレナも村人はみんなその病気に感染してることになるよな。でも俺たちはHinamizawaを離れたって別に何の問題もないぞ。実際村人にも結婚したりして遠方に住んでる人も少なくないらしいじゃないか。Hinamizawaをちょっと離れたからって錯乱して鬼と化したなんて聞いたことないぞ。
そう、それはまさにお社様の目論見通りにことが進んだからなんだよ。意味がわかるかな。この村を長い間封印してきたのは寄生虫の害を弱めるためなの。
Hosts are very important for parasites. If something ever happens to the host, the parasites that live in the host have to share the same fate. In other words, if the host went crazy and attacked people, the host would be captured and killed, which means that the parasites would die with the host too.
そうか、自然淘汰か。
さすが圭一君。そう。この地で長く生活を重ね、厳しい戒律で生活を続けた結果、寄生虫に対し過敏な人間は錯乱して結局殺された。また感染者を錯乱させてしまうような強すぎる寄生虫はこれもまた錯乱した宿主と共に殺された。その結果、寄生虫と人間は互いに相性がいい種だけが残っていった。これこそがお社様の伝説が伝える鬼と人の血は混じり合ったことの真相。
じゃあつまりその寄生虫はほとんど無害なわけなのか。
ミオさんのスクラップ帳によると、そういった無害な寄生虫に感染しているケースというのはかなり多いんだって。食文化にもよるけど、例えば生肉を食べる国では国民の8割くらいが感染している例もあるんだって。でも共生できてて人体に全く無害だから誰も治療しない。だから撲滅もされない。
なるほどな。
Wait, I didn't know about that part.
実は
Hold up, what's inside me?
物騒なものでね、錯乱した犠牲者の臓腑を食らうものだったの。でもこれも必要なことだった。
感染して犠牲になった人を食らう。まさかワクチンとか？
圭一君はやっぱり頭がいいね。ミオさんもそう読み解いてる。
That would kind of explain their ritual.
伝説では犠牲者を生きたまま解体して食らったなんて物騒なことになっているけど、実際はそんな野蛮なものじゃなくて、もっともっと医学的に取り扱われていたらしいの。強すぎる寄生虫のせいで死んだ犠牲者からワクチンを作り出し、同時に村人の抵抗力も高めていった。
お社様ってのは何者なんだよ一体。医学先進国っていうとドイツか？正体はひょっとしてナンパして流れ着いた外国人医師？
多分圭一君の答えが一番一般的だと思う。ドイツ人ではないんだけど、とりあえず医者的な存在であったのは正解。
古代の伝説の秘密が明かされていくってのはなんだか面白いな。
I don't think that Rena's story is too crazy to be true anymore. It still sounds crazy, of course, but I've never heard any theories that explain the legend of this village better than this one.
多分俺も感染してるんだよな。なんだか体中が痒くなってくるぜ。
人間だって一つの宇宙だよ。体の中には無数の細菌たちが住んでいる。その中には私たちの生活には欠かせない有用な細菌たちも少なくないんだよ。
Yeah, that's why I use soap whenever I wash my hands. I don't touch that hand sanitizer because it only kills 99.9% of bacteria. I need all that shit gone. That 0.1%, I don't care if it's beneficial to me. I need that shit out of here.
ああ、よくヨーグルトとかの CM で言ってるよな。確かにそうだ。
これもミオさんの受け売りだけど、例えばシロアリっているでしょ？
Unfortunately.
木材を食い荒らしてしまうアリ。実はシロアリって木材を消化できないんだって。体内に寄生している特殊な細菌が食べた木材の繊維を分解してくれて、その結果シロアリは木材を吸収できるんだって。これも寄生虫と共生している一例だね。
I didn't know that. When I hear the word parasites, I feel creeped out almost instinctively. But now I know some of them aren't so bad.
だから太古の昔に鬼ヶ淵村から突如発生した奇怪な伝染病は今ではほぼ根絶されたと言っていい。根絶じゃないね。無害になったと言うべきだね。
最初はとんでもない話だと思ってたけどさ、こうして種明かしがされるとなんだかサイエンスな感じがしてちょっと面白い話だよな。
私たちには面白いよ。でもお社様を神として崇める人たちにとってはこれはとても不愉快な説。
Of course. If Takano-san's theory is correct, Oyashiro-sama isn't a god. And the punishment by that god, namely the curse of Oyashiro-sama, that people have been so afraid of will turn out to have just been the symptoms of an infectious disease. I see. That's what dethroning God would mean.
だとすると、もしこの伝染病の病原体を特定して世間に発表されるようなことがあれば、信仰は破綻しちまうな。
そう。
Oh, we're on the other side now.
それこそが彼らの一番恐れることなの。そしてミオさんはその病原体を特定しようとしていたらしい。そのミオさんが消されたということは。
Okay, you know what? I'll bring this up now, just because we're seeing it. This has gone from pink to like a saturated pink, like it was very bleached, to now we're kind of approaching the color red.
特定できたってことか。
かもしれないね。ミオさんはもういないし、彼女のスクラップ帳にも特定できたとは書かれていない。でも消されるに値する理由が他に思いつかないの。
でもよ、20世紀ももうすぐ終わろうっていう現代だぜ。村人だっていろんな医療機関で検査を受けてきたはずだ。なのにそういう怪しげな寄生虫が摘出されたって話はないんだろう。
I mean, it's the same thing with that drug. You know, what killed Tomatake? Nobody's finding anything out.
確かに病原体そのものは未だ発見されていない。でも確かに何かの寄生を受けていることの信号だけは確認されているんだって。
なんだって？本当かよ。
When a parasite enters a human body, that body's immune system cells, I'm not pronouncing those, try to kill the parasite. They secrete an antibody called immunoglobulin E, or IgE. The most common way of checking if a person is infected by a pathogen is to look at the levels of the secretion. According to Takano's research, people from Hinamizawa have a very high level of IgE in their blood. And that's not all. They also have obvious symptoms of being infected by parasites. They don't have any allergies. IgE stimulates mast cells, and they secrete histamines and serotonin as a result. These cause an allergic reaction. That allergic reaction isn't pleasant for humans, but it's necessary for the body to kill the pathogen. But the parasites don't want to be killed, of course, so they secrete substances that counteract IgE. As a result, IgE stops stimulating the receptors of the mast cells, which stops secreting the chemical compounds. As a result, the antigen antibody reaction, namely the allergic reaction, doesn't occur. In other words, a human body that was infected by a parasite secretes a high level of IgE, but doesn't display allergic reactions. For your information, a human body that's infected by a parasite doesn't suffer from hay fever. You get hay fever due to your body secreting a large amount of IgE because it's a mistaken pollen for a parasitic invasion. As a result, a large amount of stimulants like histamine will be secreted, but your body can't contain the parasite that it's attempting to kill. That's why your body continues to secrete IgE. As a result, the stimulants keep causing allergic reactions, and that's how hay fever works. I'm so glad I get to learn about hay fever in Higurashi. If you have a parasite in your body, it'll deactivate your IgE and suppress the secretion of stimulants. As a result, you don't have an allergic reaction. In other words, there's no hay fever in Hinamizawa, and you can cure your hay fever by moving here.
つまり特定はできなくてもその存在だけは疑いようがないってわけだ。
そうなるね。
だとするとそのスクラップ帳は信心深い連中にとっては十分危険な存在だな。たとえ特定できなくても存在を証明している時点で十分に危険だと思うぞ。
そうだね。たとえ証拠にはならなくても彼らにとってはミオさんを葬るに値する危険性があったと思う。
確かに恐ろしい秘密だな。ちゃんと説明してもらえば理解できることだが、いきなり聞いたら刺激が強すぎる話だぜ。
でしょ？だから私も最初は信じられなかったし、圭一君に話しても信じてもらえないと思った。
で、大事なのはその事実を隠蔽しようと暗躍してるヤバい連中がいるって方なんだよな。
そう、今大事なのはそっちの方。
The fanatics who want to revive the sanctity of the god they worship. Reviving the majesty of their god means reviving the power of that god. And the power of their god is the infectious disease. This infectious disease can't spread nationwide unlike other infectious diseases. Excuse me. So from now on, I'm going to start calling it an endemic disease. And that fits better, since it only affects this region. Anyway, the endemic disease of current-day Hinamizawa is different from the one of old times. It's been through a process of natural selection, and it's harmless now. In other words, it doesn't do any harm to human bodies. That harm was once interpreted as a curse. A curse is the power of a god, so a harmless endemic disease makes that the god, or means that the god is powerless, And that means the only way to regain the majesty of that god is to revive the curse. In other words, they want to bring back the primitive endemic disease, namely the harmful strong version of the parasite. Okay.
信者たちは神が実は寄生虫だったなんてことは否定したいんだろう。なのに寄生虫を研究するのかよ。矛盾してないか？
矛盾しているよ。だからこの研究は信者たちのトップだけが知る秘密の研究なんだと思う。彼らは表向きは信仰を盛り上げているけど、その裏では信仰の正体について極めて冷静に理解していて、神の技を自らの手で復活させようとしている。
なるほどな。おいおい、なんだかとんでもない話になってきたぞ。
ミオさんのスクラップ帳にはそうとは一言も書かれてないんだけど。
慰霊診療所がどうして？
ひなみざわの規模から見て施設が立派すぎるのがその理由。そしてミオさんはそこに勤めていた。監督は園崎家にスカウトされてきた細菌学者が正体とか。
監督がか？
ミオさんは余計なことを知りすぎたから消されたんだと思うの。なのに監督が消されない理由は、監督は信者たちに依頼されている立場だから。
そして太古の有害な風土病を研究してるってのか、あの監督が。
ごめん、監督は無関係かもしれないね。
No, I've been thinking about him for a little bit in this episode, ever since Oyashiro-sama was brought up to be a foreign doctor.
今のは私の思いつき。でも研究は間違いなくどこかで誰かにさせている。そしてその研究には5年かかり、 ついに完成を見た。
Yeah, I feel like Irie has something to do with all this, whether he is working for the Sonozakis in some sort of way, which doesn't make complete sense because in chapter 4 he was literally on the other side of what was happening. I think he is, I don't know what to say here. I don't think he's working with the Sonozakis or really for the, I guess, what the village is trying to go for in bringing back the cult of Yashiro-sama. He's working against it in a way, but not in a malicious way, if that makes any sense. And I continue to think about his death in chapter 3 and the way that that came up. It came up for a reason, right? It's an apparent suicide, but why? So there's something going on with Irie, and I think it's definitely time that we do not ignore that. The first case was the dismemberment murder by the damn construction workers. Their quarrel had turned into a lynching. They might have had the primitive infectious disease, and the symptoms, the aggression and delirium, might have kicked in. The victims of the second year were Sotoko's parents. There were no witnesses, so the whole event is veiled in mystery. But there is a theory that someone might have pushed them over the cliff, since the fence of the observation deck that they fell from was quite sturdy. What if one of them was infected by the primitive parasite? He or she might have become violent and pushed the other over the cliff. The Shinto priest died from a disease, and his wife drowned herself in the third year. He might have died of shock because of a hypersensitive reaction of the infection. His wife might have gone crazy and committed suicide when one of the symptoms, delirium, kicked in. In the fourth year, oh yeah, Satoshi Hojo's aunt was beaten to death, probably by Satoshi himself. Everybody who knew Satoshi-kun remembers how he changed at that time. He showed signs of being both aggressive and delirious. And the fifth year, for the first time in 5 years, the victim experienced the maggot disease described in the old scroll of the Furude Shrine. The reason behind that is unclear, but the stronger primitive parasite could have given its victims a delusion of magnets. Magnets? Maggots. Come on, Michael SK. What are you doing? This means that they finally managed to duplicate the curse of Oyashiro-sama after 5 years of research, which is our drug. Tomotake's son is the victim of the 5th year. He died in an extremely abnormal way, and I'm the only one who understands his death because I experienced the same thing. He kept clawing at his throat to get rid of the maggots and died as a result. With all that explained, I finally understand the maggot disease I experienced in Ibaraki. I left Hinamizawa, and it made the parasite in me uncomfortable. As a result, it tried to resist, even though it wasn't very strong, and it tried to make me homesick. But with my parents' divorce, I grew mentally unbalanced, and I completely lost the power to resist for a period of time. The parasite was weak and harmless, but my mental instability allowed it to worsen my symptoms dramatically. As a result, I went crazy and became violent. The delusion of Oyashiro-sama appearing to me in the bathroom was probably the terminal phase of my delirium. I created the supernatural existence, Oyashiro-sama, that I was instilled with when I was little. Then I persuaded myself to go back to Hinamizawa based on that delusion. Some of the transcendents of Onigafuchi must have had the same kind of experience. They must have passed their experiences down as the acts of God or of a god. And I remember I once saw on TV that the indigenous people in South America used some kind of natural drug in order to have a mystical experience, and that they called it a ritual to communicate with their gods.
じゃあ、信者どもの目的はその太古の寄生虫をHinamizawa中にばらまくことなのか?
Okay, hold up. So I wanna do some thinking here because I can't wait till the end of the episode. I'll forget. So, if the parasite kicking in for whatever reason, I mean, in Rena's case, she explained it well, that because of everything that was going on in her life, even so the parasites aren't as strong as they used to be, back when they started, they can still be very dangerous depending on, the situation. And in her case, if you guys remember back in chapter 1, we learned that in her past she was very violent. smashing windows, smashing people's faces in, smashing everything. I think it was just the windows. But anyways, yes, she was very violent, which is one of the things that she brought up here, is that the parasite will make you very violent, delirious, and what have you. And that really matches everything. The maggots, her having a fucking conversation with Oyashiro-sama in the bathroom, and the violence that she showed at her school. And of course, the homesickness. Okay, so that makes sense. Let's go back to Chapter 3. Chapter 3, we had Keiichi going over here, having an out-of-body experience whenever he got completely sick and tired of Sodako being abused, so he went on a delirious, violent sort of rampage, right? Where he thought he went out and killed someone, but didn't, maybe. I don't really know how the fuck that all worked. But he was very violent, right? Okay, so yeah, he obviously is fucking infected because he's here and he's drinking the water that turns the frogs gay. Let's go back to Chapter 1. He was given some sort of drug that made him delirious and violent, right? He killed Mion and Rena, and then he clawed his throat out. That makes sense by a parasite. In Chapter 2, well, Keiichi almost got tortured. I have no idea what the fuck happened at the end, though. I think he died of a heart attack, but from what we saw, that was no heart attack. That was kind of weird. I don't think I have any other examples right now, but in a way, this theory does kind of make sense with those events. For the first time, we're actually connecting some dots. And if it's not exactly a parasite, we're on the right track to something making sense here. We have themes that are matching up with one another. The violence, being delirious as fuck, basically seeing shit that doesn't exist. So we're completely having these delusions that we're personally having. Nobody else, except for the whole, there's maggots in my bloodstream, I need to get them out. That seems to be the one shared thing. Very, very curious. Okay, Keiichi, sorry. I cut you off for so long there, but just really needed to talk.
多分それが最終目的だと思う。でも人知れずにそれをやることはないと思うの。宗教にはセレモニーが必要だから。だからもし彼らが望むものを生み出せて、それをばらまく日が訪れたなら。
I don't know how I did this, but I was just getting a simple drink of my sports drink, my knockoff Gatorade, and I kind of made a mess. Well, whatever, we're okay.
お社様の復活の人でも称して宗教的なデモンストレーションをすると思うの。何か特別な儀式とか、とにかくお社様の復活を祝い知らしめるような盛大な何か。
なあ、それってよ、悪いことなんだよな。
危険性の高い病原体をばらまこうというんだから、多分悪いことに分類されるだろうね。
それって最近テロって言わないか。おい、めちゃくちゃヤバいことだぞ。おい。
You don't say.
富武さんの死に方がお社様のたたりの再現に成功していた以上、X デーは間近ってことなんじゃないのか。
Wouldn't our day of revival be whenever, oh shit, Rika, fuck. Oh no, that's what, oh shit. Okay, so they're gonna cut her open, right? We just heard this whole thing about eating the intestines or whatever for a vaccine. Are they going to use her for the vaccine of the pure parasite infection? Is that why she dies the way she dies in Chapter 3?
わからない。もう秒読みなのか、まだまだ時間のかかることなのか。
Oh, I don't think it's gonna take a year.
もうこれはレナ一人が抱えていい問題じゃないぞ。かなり笑えない大陰謀だぞ。俺たちにはどうしようもない。警察に任す方がないぞ。
私が話したこと、警察は信じてくれると思う？
信じるかどうかは向こうが判断するだろう。とにかく話した方がいい。
圭一君、それを大石さんに私が打ち明けたら、私がスクラップ帳を持っていることを告白するのと同じなんじゃないかな。
それってまずいのか？
大石さんの接触はミオさんが殺された後だった。
Yeah, interesting that it was Rena this time and not Keiichi.
敵はミオさんを殺した時点でスクラップ帳の紛失とその数日前に 私が図書館で出会っていることを知っている。
バカな。つまり。
そう、大石さん自体が敵の手先である可能性がある。大石さんは私がスクラップ帳を持っている可能性があると当たりをつけていて、探りを入れてきているのかもしれない。実際彼はうさんくさくて腹を割らない。園崎家を疑わせるようなことを言って自分は味方だと言ってくるけど、彼だってその園崎家の手先かもしれない。
警察を疑い出したらおしまいだぞ。
圭一くん、4年目の撲殺事件を知ってるよね。聡子ちゃんのおばさんが殺された事件。あれは犯人はサトシくん以外に考えられないんだけど、その後犯人は麻薬中毒者だったということになった。これをどう思う？
警察内部に盲信的な連中の手先が混じっていて、犯人を捏造したってことか。
3年目の神主さんの病死の検視とか、2年目の北条夫妻の事故現場の見聞とか。警察がもしも彼らの片棒を担いでいるなら、数々の完全犯罪が可能になる。hinamizawa御三家はダム戦争時から今日に至るまでもずっと警察への圧力を維持してるんだよ。
I didn't think that we had people on the inside of the police. I mean, we have somebody on the inside of the three families, but we really don't know who. Well, I guess we saw them in chapter 4, but did we? I feel like we did. Well, anyways. Wow, there's a lot of like double agent bullshit going on here.
それに沖宮の町のいろんなところに一族が進出して実権を握っているというのはみーちゃんから聞かされたことがあるんじゃない？
確かに。それはミオンの口からだけじゃない。いろんなやつの口から聞かされた。ミオンの園崎家がどれだけ市内全域に強力な影響力を持っているかってのをな。
そういうこと。警察はこの土地では必ずしも信用できない。
レナ、すまん。先にはっきりさせたいんだが、黒幕は園崎家なのか？ミオンも関係があるってのか？それだけは先に聞かせてくれ。
御三家であるみーちゃんやリカちゃんが直接関係しているかはわからない。ただ盲信的な勢力が御三家や一番の有力家である園崎家を自由に動かせる中枢部に根付いているのは間違いない。
I think the Sonozakis definitely know something, but I feel like it's Rika who truly knows something going on here.
盲信的な勢力が根付いたのか、
she's probably behind it in a way.
御三家の中枢が盲信的なのかは分かりかねるけどね。
関係あるかどうかわからない以上、用心に越したことはないってわけだな。
うん、みーちゃんたちのことを疑うわけじゃないよ。普段のみーちゃんは頼もしいし、私も他の心配事なら打ち明けて助力を求めることもあると思う。ただ今回のことはちょっと話の次元が違う。圭一くんは見たことあるかな？みーちゃんは普段はふざけているけど、園崎家の次期当主として振る舞うときはものすごく冷酷で別人みたいに振る舞えるの。それにもし無関係だったとしても、それならばやはり耳に入れることで危険に巻き込むことにもなるんじゃないかな。
ミオンたちが味方になってくれればかなり頼もしいぞ。俺は打ち明ける価値があると思うんだが。
だからそれはダメ。敵ではないと確認が取れるまでそれは避けるべきだよ。味方にできれば確かに心強いけど、そうでなかった時はどうするつもり？
Yep, end of the line.
じゃあ俺とレナだけでどう戦うつもりなんだよ。
もともと最初から絶望的な戦いなんだよ。だから圭一くんを巻き込みたくなかった。
くそ、高野さんめ、とんでもない置き土産を残してくれたな。
でもそのおかげでとてつもない陰謀を知ることができたんだよ。これはミオさんの遺言なんだよ。
村を影から牛耳る何者かに、その村に住まうガキンチョ2人が挑むわけだ。こいつは最高にハードな話だぜ。一筋縄じゃいかねえぞ。
でも圭一くんが味方でよかったよ。2人だから話し合えて相談できる。
当たり前だろ。俺は最初からずっとレナの味方で仲間だぞ。
ありがとう。2人なら心強いよ。
一人で悩むよりは建設的になれるだろうしな。
そうだね。2人でどう戦えばいいか、これからじっくり相談していこう。今日は私 スクラップ帳を読み直す時間が欲しかったから休んだけど、明日からは普段通りに生活するね。おかしな行動をすれば気取られてしまうかもしれないからね。ケイチ君も変に構えないで普段通りに生活してね。みーちゃんとか時折鋭いことがあるから特に気をつけて。
わかった。何事もなかったかのように生活するよ。だが畜生、なんだか怖いぜ。とんでもない陰謀が間近に迫ってて、それがもうカウントダウンに入ってるかもしれないってんだぜ。それを知りつつ普段通りに生活しろってのも辛い話だよな。
多分そんなにすぐじゃないはずなの。さっきも言った通り、彼らが信心深ければ深いほど宗教的なセレモニーを必要とするはず。そういうセレモニーは村を挙げて行うものだもの。綿流し以上のイベントは今のhinamizawa沢には存在しない。
ということは少なくとも来年の綿流しまでは大丈夫ということか。
根拠のない読みだけどね。他に綿流し以上のイベントが思いつかない。
I think we have a year at least, but I also feel like we don't because of how likely, or how they killed, what the fuck did I get likely from? Because of how they killed Mio-san. I might not know, but there might be a bigger religious event than Watanagashi. It might not be long until that day. On the day of Oyashiro-sama's revival, they're going to spread a dangerous parasite, and that day might be just around the corner.
レイナ、まだ電話してるのか？そろそろ終わりにしなさい。
My father stuck his head out from the living room, telling me I need to hang up soon. I thought about telling him so many times. It's natural to think that your parents will be on your side no matter what. But I know just how weak he can get, so I couldn't tell him. I don't think he'd believe me anyway. Even if I told him, he would just tell me to call the police. It's better that I don't tell him. They might get close to my father to get to me. Wait, what the fuck? They might get close to my father to get me. Gotcha. If he didn't know anything about anything, including the scrapbooks, there'd be nothing to squeeze out of him to begin with.
ごめんねケイチ君、今夜はもう遅いからこれで切るね。また明日学校で。
おう、また明日。
用心してね。ケイチ君ももう部外者じゃないんだから。
おう、せいぜい気をつけるぜ。
I remembered the suspicious men in the white van and felt a chill run through my spine. They looked like villagers, but they weren't. They had the village accent, but they were just pretending. The more I thought about it, the more suspicious they became. It let me know that Rena and I aren't safe. If Rena is right, they're just suspicious of her, and they're not sure if she has the scrapbooks or not. But it's still creepy. Rena had probably experienced the same creepiness I felt when I saw the van several times up until now. She must sense the danger more than I do. However, the fact that they weren't attacking, that they were merely observing us, was disturbing. If they attacked her, she could have done something like going to the police. But all they're doing is just watching her from a distance. She can't do anything about it. She can't talk to anybody about it. She probably just wants to stay in her house all day. But if she acted different, they might take it as proof that she has the scrapbooks. We have to think about how to fight against them without making it obvious. I told myself that there was no going back, and I put the phone down. Wow, what a segment this was. Yeah, it's definitely worth considering this theory. If not it being exact, it's an idea. But I think we should also take it with a huge-ass grain of salt because it sort of seems like Takano is always telling us something, you know, before or after the Watanagashi. And I don't know, it kind of throws things off in a weird way. Alrighty, we will end the episode here though. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. I got my little guessing game out of the way. I still don't really know what to think about Dr. Irie, but I am thinking about his appearance in Chapter 1, the whole thing with the quote-unquote drug, and I guess we gotta throw this whole parasite theory into consideration as well. I feel like Irie has a purpose. I just don't know what that is yet. And I feel like we're right there. In a way, we're just about ready to see who we're up against. but why are we up against them? Is it truly what we think here, you know? There's a lot of moving parts, but maybe at the same time there's not, and I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take it easy.